Evening, everybody. I had the privilege a couple of years ago to speak at this dinner. Sports Inc. Was a company that Phil and I started back in 2000. So it's a real honour for me to be standing up here and presenting this award. The other influence that Sports Inc. has had here tonight, we've worked with the talented Annie Otway and Steve Johnson, and have had the privilege of producing the videos that you've seen tonight and over the last few occasions. And I'd like to thank Glenda for her kind words earlier in saying that these celebrations of New Zealand sporting history should be seen far and wide, because in my mind, as a young guy growing up, the likes of the Kiwis and the Bone Crushers, David Peake, Noel Harris, Lance O'Sullivan, they were up there with our best All Blacks, Black Caps and Silver Ferns, and in my mind are spoken in the same voice. One of the things about Phil is that I think everybody in this room would have a Phil Leishman story. Phil knew a lot of people, but everyone knew Phil Leishman. And I knew Phil before he knew me. He was a few years older than me, but the first day I got to know Phil was travelling to Auckland and staying with my grandparents, who are mad keen racing enthusiasts, and sitting down in front of the television watching Sport on One on a Saturday afternoon and seeing Phil present the races with Glyn Tucker. And it was one of those days when Phil got on a bit of a roll, and both him and Glyn were looking to pick winners, and Phil was on 3 and going for number 4, and said, "Look, Glyn, if this horse wins the next one, if my horse wins the next one, I'll kiss it live on air." And it did, and I thought, as a 10-year-old watching that at the time, was pretty brave for a guy to kiss a thoroughbred live on national television. So Phil Leishman made an impression on me, and impression on many others. The other thing about Phil was you'd all be aware that Phil's hair never moved. That was one of his talents as a presenter, and TV presenters don't like their hair to move, and I suppose it's like a filly or a colt with a great mane. They like to look after their hair, and if you look at Phil's two great mates, Des and Steve over there, their hair hasn't moved all night either. Phil was a great storyteller. He was not so much an interviewer. He was more of a storyteller, and he had conversations with people, and he loved to tell me all the stories that he had with the racing fraternity. He loved being part of the racing fraternity. He loved the people that he got to meet, and he loved to tell the racing stories. And Phil was one of the proof of that adage that actually nice guys don't come last. He was a real champion of the industry. In 2014, the New Zealand Racing Hall of Fame board recognised that many mainstream media journalists and aspiring journalists did not have an awareness of New Zealand racing and the breeding industry. As a result, it set up the Leishman Media Racing Awareness Award, which has its objective to improve the awareness of mainstream media people in the New Zealand horse breeding and racing industries. The award was named after Phil, who was one of the Hall of Fame's inaugural directors, and he would have been especially proud of the honour. This is a practical award which includes attending selected race meetings, various Karaka horse sales, and also as an observer with Australian television crews when they come over and visit places like the Waikato and Auckland stud farms. Now, to illustrate some of the work achieved by previous recipients of this award, we have a short clip from 2016 awardee Vanessa Pert-Smith. Now, Vanessa was the General Manager of Sales and Marketing Strategy at Country TV, and Vanessa produced this piece on the 2016 Karaka weanling sales.
We're Broyhill Farm. My name's Nick King, my wife Anne-Marie. We've run Broyhill Farm for the last 21 years. We're here.
So So that's just a little bit of an idea of what the winner of this award can go on and do, and as I say, tell those great stories about a great industry. Now, the 2018 awardee is Guy Heveldt of TVNZ Sports News, and Guy, he's an ascending star in the sports media industry. Hailing from Christchurch in 2009, Guy was offered a full-time position at Radio Sport, and for the next 7 years he enjoyed the role and gained invaluable experience until last June when a position at TV1 News became available. Guy always had a career in television in mind, and the short time Guy has been at TV1 News, he has adapted quickly and shown all the natural skills required of a quality television journalist. He has relished the challenge of adding pictures to audio and has already worked on several high-quality racing news clips. And it was these stories that encouraged a colleague in at TVNZ to suggest he apply for the Leishman Media Racing Awareness Award. Phil will no doubt be impressed about what Guy has achieved in such a short amount of time. I've had the pleasure of getting to know Guy in recent years through the television industry, while not quite possessing the bouffant of hair that Phil was so well known for. He does remind me a lot of Phil. He hails from the South Island. He's a great storyteller and a genuine young man to boot. And with the added bonus of being able to ride for Mr. Chris Waller in race 6 over at Flemington, should a jockey not make the weight. Now I'd like to ask Guy to come up on stage and receive Phil's Racing Awareness Award. Thank you. Just before Guy speaks, we've got a little segment on one of the racing stories he's already done, so I think you'll be impressed with this.
Horse racing. We're released this afternoon from one of our main Caulfield Cup.
By Heveldt, One News. Thanks very much. The hair is rapidly disappearing, by the way. Mum's dad didn't have a lot, Dad doesn't have a lot, so I'll embrace it while I've got it. Just before I really get into things, George, Simon, you're very lucky that I'm on a journalist's salary, because it is the top of my bucket list to go and see Winks race, so I would have pushed you to the absolute limit, mate. Look, I'll keep this brief. It's an absolute honour to be here tonight to receive this award for a couple of reasons, really. One, of course, it's named after Phil Leishman, who was a legend in New Zealand, a legend in broadcasting, absolutely. I was lucky enough to meet him a couple of times, and what everyone says is true. He was one of the nicest people you'll ever meet, and an absolute legend of a man. Secondly, as well, the other reason why it means so much is because of the other people the people who have been inducted tonight. Chris Waller, Murray Baker, and Noel Harris, three of racing's absolute legends, and to be in the same room, let alone standing here receiving an award on the night that those three are inducted, is quite honestly surreal, and will stick with me for a very long time. I just got a few thank yous to make. Firstly, to the Hall of Fame Racing Board for picking me for the award. Thank you very much. To Chris Luoni and Mark Chitty, specifically out of that board, you guys have been immense helps over the last few months, ever since I actually sat down with Chris at Seddon Park to have our first chat. So thank you both very much for your help. Michael Guerin, I don't think he's here tonight, but for his help ever since I got into the racing industry and broadcasting alike, actually. Kate Gordy, I think she's here somewhere. I know she's here somewhere, I'm not sure where, but thank you so much for taking all my calls, for not poo-pooing any idea that I have on a story or anything like that, and going out of your way to help me with contacts and the like. Thank you also to Glenda Hughes for your lovely words earlier. I really appreciate that. And to my girlfriend Christina for telling me I should apply for this award. I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, so thank you. Look, I just want to say that This industry is massive in New Zealand, and I hope that by bringing it into the mainstream a little bit more, it will help continue to grow it and put it into the front of mind of a lot of people here in New Zealand who maybe don't think about racing as much as they should. It's a billion-dollar industry. It's massively important to this industry. And if you have any stories that you think I should tell, 0210 277 0487. Thanks very much.